Welcome to the Conscious Kinky Podcast, where we explore sexuality, connection, and power through awareness and intentional choice.
At the Kink Collective, we help people reframe their relationship with sexuality, build deeper connections, and become safe spaces in the world.
Each episode invites reflection, not performance.
And the conversation continues inside Conscious Conversations, our live community space. Welcome to the conversation.
What if people are reacting to something you bring into the room before you ever say a word?
What if your tone, your pace, posture, silence, urgency, or attention is already communicating something?
Because impact is not only about what you say, it's also about what people feel from you.
And sometimes the thing people are responding to is not your words, it's the energy underneath them. Welcome to the Conscious Kinky Podcast. I'm Kat.
And I am Joshua. We've been doing this for 8 months, man. It's crazy.
This podcast exists to help people understand themselves more clearly, relate more honestly, and stop repeating patterns that they don't fully understand yet.
This is month 8. And again, I can't believe we've been doing this. The theme is impact, how we affect people, how people experience us, and what changes when we stop measuring ourselves only by what we meant.
Last week, we opened the month with intention versus impact. We talked about the difference between what we meant to do and how it actually landed.
And today, we're going deeper into something a lot more subtle. The energy that we bring into the room, the atmosphere that we create, the way people experience us before we even explain ourselves.
Because a lot of people think impact only happens through words, but your nervous system speaks too. Your body speaks, your pacing speaks, your silence speaks, your tone and your attention, they all speak.
And if you're not aware of the energy you bring, you may be creating impact you don't understand.
So this theme for month 8 is your intentions matter, but your impact teaches the truth.
And this week, we're looking at the part of impact that happens before language. It happens before explanation or before what I meant was. It also happens before the conversation even fully begins.
So we're talking about presence, not performance, not perfection, but presence.
Presence is the key to all of it. Because some people say all the right things, but their energy feels rushed. Their energy can feel tense, demanding, closed. It can feel performative. It can even feel unsafe.
I feel so cold out. And some people don't say much at all, but their presence creates ease. You feel like you can breathe around them. You feel like there is room for you. You feel like they are actually there with you.
And that's impact too. And this is where the work gets honest, because we have to ask, what do people feel from me? Not what do I want them to feel? Not what do I hope they feel? Not what do I think I'm giving them? But what do they actually experience when they're with me? There have been times in my life where I thought I was bringing clarity. A lot of times in my life where I thought I was bringing clarity. I thought I was bringing direction. I thought I was bringing leadership. But if I'm honest, there were times where I was also bringing intensity, where I was bringing pressure and urgency, like the time I called from Palm Springs. And a need for things to move in a certain direction.
And that can be hard to see in yourself. Because when you're used to being the person who leads, organizes, facilitates, or holds space, you can start assuming that your energy is helpful because your intention is helpful.
Exactly. But sometimes leadership without regulation feels like pressure. Clarity without warmth can feel like correction. Direction without consent can feel like being managed. Intensity without attunement can feel like being pulled into someone else's nervous system.
That's such an important distinction because people may not always have the language to say, your energy feels overwhelming, or your pace feels too fast, or your silence feels loaded, your attention feels like pressure.
So instead, they might withdraw. They may get quiet or perform. They may agree before they're ready. They may brace. Or they might start managing us.
And if we're not paying attention, we may think they're not engaging, they're not being honest, they're pulling away, they're not meeting me.
When the deeper question may be this: what am I bringing into the space that they're responding to?
So for me, I've had to look at times where I was warm and engaged on the outside, but internally I was anxious, or trying to keep something going, or trying to make the interaction feel okay. Even when my words were kind, my energy may have been asking for something.
And that's the part. And yes, I'm guilty of that too. Sometimes our energy's asking for reassurance before we ever say it. Sometimes our energy's asking to be chosen. Sometimes it's asking someone else to calm us down. Sometimes our energy is asking someone to trust us faster than they're ready to.
And when we don't name that, other people have to feel it and then try to figure it out. And that creates an impact, even when we never meant to.
So what energy actually means here in this space?
Let's define what we mean by energy. We're not using it in a vague or mystical way. We're talking about the felt experience of your presence.
Energy is how your internal state becomes relational. It's your attention, it's your pace. Energy is your breath, your tone, your posture. It can be your emotional charge, and it's certainly your ability to stay present.
It's what people feel from you before they understand you. It's the atmosphere you create around your words.
You can say I'm fine, but your energy may say I'm fucking angry, or I'm tense, or I'm waiting for you to notice that I'm here in my sorrow. It can also say I need you to fix this, or I don't actually feel safe.
You can say, oh, take your time, but your energy may be saying, please hurry up. I need an answer. I'm uncomfortable with the pause.
Yes, I'm guilty of that. You can also say, I want honesty, but your energy may be saying something totally different, something along the lines of, be careful how honest you are with me.
And that's why energy matters, because people are not only responding to the sentence, they're responding to the nervous system behind the sentence.
So let's talk about frameworks, and let's talk about why people miss their own energy. A lot of people miss their own energy because they're focused on their intention. They can think, oh, I'm being helpful. I'm being clear. I'm being open. I'm being honest, of course.
But they are not noticing the state they're in while they're doing it. I hate when I feel like this. Are they regulated? Are they rushing? Are they attached to an outcome? Are they bracing? Are they trying to be impressive? Are they trying to be chosen? How about avoiding rejection?
Because the state you're in shapes the impact of what you say. The same words can land completely different depending on the energy behind them.
For example, can we talk? That can feel open and grounded, or it can feel heavy and loaded. Can we talk? Right? Depending on the energy behind it.
Another one is, I have a question. That can feel curious, or it can feel like an interrogation.
I'm here. That can feel supportive, or it can feel like pressure.
So the question isn't only, well, what did I say? The question is, what was I carrying when I said it? And that's the difference between energy versus intensity.
One of the biggest blind spots in this topic is confusing intensity with presence. A lot of people bring a lot of energy into a room and assume that that means they are present.
But intensity and presence are not the same thing. Intensity can be loud, it can be fast, it can be powerful, charismatic. Intensity can be convincing.
Presence is different. It's grounded attention. It's the ability to be with what is happening without needing to rush, control it, perform it, or turn it into something else.
Intensity can activate people. Presence can help people settle.
And that matters because sometimes we mistake activation for connection. We think there's so much energy here. But the deeper question is this energy regulating us or escalating us?
Are we more honest in this energy, or are we more performative? Are we more grounded or more impulsive? Are we more ourselves or more caught in the role?
That's the difference, right? Intensity can create a moment. Presence can build trust.
I want to point out just for a second, mental health matters in this space too, and it's not discussed. For example, ADHD and the pursuit for stimulation or being overstimulated or intensity for intensity's sake or neglect, being neglected can drive a person to seek out certain types of experiences too. All of that falls into these conversations because we all have our things that affect on how we show up. So while this is a framework and while this is a discussion, understand that your experiences are going to be yours and you have particulars to your lived experience that matter too. So take it from here, Mama.
All right. So people may feel things from you that you are not intending to send. They may feel your urgency or your guardedness, or maybe your disappointment or your need or your desire to be right. Maybe they can detect your anxiety or your distance, resentment, hope, control. And again, this is not about shaming yourself. It's about becoming more conscious. Because if you don't know what you're bringing, you can't take responsibility for it.
Sometimes people feel pressure from us because we're not honest about what we want. And it's not always easy. Sometimes we don't even know. Sometimes they feel distance because we're protecting ourselves. Sometimes they feel uncertainty because we're not clear inside ourselves. Sometimes they feel managed because we're uncomfortable letting things unfold.
And at times, people feel ease from us. They feel warmth and permission, honesty, room, groundedness, care. And that's impact too.
This is not just about what we need to correct. This is also about what we want to cultivate.
So now we're going to talk about our framework, ICABS.
So let's apply the framework. Not by repeating definitions, because that's not what we do here, but by using them. I is for introspection. Introspection asks, what state am I in before I enter a connection? Am I anxious? Am I grounded? Am I hungry for validation? Am I irritated? Am I lonely and do I need to be seen? Am I guarded because I've been hurt? Or am I trying to prove something? Am I actually available? Am I actually available for this?
That question matters because if you don't check in with yourself, other people may be forced to interact with that state you haven't named.
You may call it confidence. I have in the past. But underneath it may be urgency. You may call it honesty. Underneath it may be frustration. You may call it passion. But underneath it may be pressure.
Introspection gives you the chance to say, what am I bringing into this? Before someone else has to feel it and respond to it.
Next is C for container.
Container asks, what does this interaction, or does this interaction have enough steadiness to hold what I'm bringing? Have I created clarity? Have I named what kind of conversation this actually is? Have I slowed down enough for both people to arrive? Have I made room for pause? Have I given the other person space to respond?
Without container, energy can spill everywhere. Anxiety becomes urgency. Desire becomes pressure. Uncertainty becomes over-explaining. Silence becomes tension. And intensity becomes overwhelm.
The container might sound like, I want to check in before we get into this. Or, I notice I'm feeling a little activated, so I want to slow down. Or, is now a good time for this conversation? I don't need an immediate answer. And let's take a breath before we respond.
A container helps your energy become more responsible. Not hidden, not suppressed, but responsible.
A is for authenticity.
Authenticity asks, am I showing up as who I actually am? Or am I performing the energy I think will get me the response that I want?
That one is important because people perform calm. They perform openness and confidence and dominance. They perform ease, and they perform being okay.
But performance creates instability because the person can feel something underneath, and that doesn't necessarily match the presentation.
Authenticity may sound like, I want to be honest, but I'm a little nervous. Or I notice I'm moving fast. Or I care about this and I don't want to pressure it. I need a moment to get grounded. I'm excited, but I want to pace this well.
That kind of honesty lets people meet you where you're at. Not the performance version of you, but the real you. Next is V for vulnerability.
Vulnerability asks, can I admit the energy I bring affects people? Can I admit that my state has impact? Can I let someone tell me how they experience me without immediately defending?
And that can feel exposing because many of us want to believe if I didn't say anything wrong, I didn't do anything wrong.
But sometimes the issue is not the sentence you say. It's the charge, the energy, the pressure, the tone, timing, or the lack of room that you don't create.
Vulnerability is able to say, I didn't realize that's how my energy landed. I want to understand that. It also says, I can see how my urgency might have felt like pressure, or I can see how my silence might have felt like distance. Next is S for safety. Safety asks, does my presence help people soften, brace? Does it make people shrink or perform? Or can they tell the truth?
That's a powerful question. Do people feel like they can breathe around me? Do they feel like they can say no or take the time they need? Do they feel like they can be really genuinely honest? Or do they feel like they can disappoint me without being punished?
Safety doesn't mean everyone is always comfortable around you. Safety means people don't have to abandon themselves to stay connected to you.
And that begins with the energy we bring.
Let's talk about frameworks. MISS and energy.
So let's look at energy through MISS because the energy you bring affects every stage of connection. So M is for meet. At the meet stage, people are already sensing you. Before they know your story, before they know your values or your intentions, they're experiencing your presence.
So the question is, what do people meet when they meet me? Do they meet curiosity? Do they meet pressure? Do they meet performance? Do they meet warmth and acceptance? Or do they meet guardedness? Do they meet someone who's actually present?
Meet is where first impressions are not just about appearance or words. They're about atmosphere. So I is for invest.
At the invest stage, your energy becomes a pattern. People begin to notice a few things. Are you consistent? Do you regulate yourself? Can you regulate yourself? Do you make room for them? Do you become different when you want something? Do you become tense when you don't get your way? Can you stay grounded over time?
Investment reveals whether your energy is sustainable. Because some people are exciting at first, but exhausting over time.
That's a word. Some energy is really magnetic in the beginning, but unsafe when repeated.
So investment lets people see whether your presence can actually hold a connection. First S is shared information. At the shared information stage, energy determines whether truth feels welcome. You can ask a question in a way that feels curious or in a way that feels like a trap.
You can say, tell me what you need. But if your energy says, please don't inconvenience me, the other person may not feel like they can answer honestly.
Shared information asks, can I make room for truth? Can I listen without filling the space? That's huge, right? Can I ask without pressure? And can I receive without taking over? So the second S is shared experience.
At the shared experience stage, energy becomes embodied because people experience whether your presence creates depth or just intensity, whether your pacing creates trust or pressure, whether your attention creates connection or is it performance.
This is where the truth of energy becomes undeniable because shared experience reveals what words can hide.
If your energy is grounded, experience can deepen. If your energy is scattered, people may start managing you. If your energy is pressured, people may comply instead of choose. If your energy is present, people may feel safer to be honest. Let's transition to practice. So now we bring this back to you, because every one of us brings connection and energy into connection. And the question is not, do I have energy? The question is, am I aware of what my energy is asking for, creating or communicating?
So these questions are not meant to make you self-conscious. They are meant to make you more responsible.
Take your time, bring them into your journal, bring them Tuesday nights to Curious Conversations. Curious Conversations, Conscious Conversations. I'm curious as to what the fuck's going on next door. And let them reveal not just how you think you show up, but how you may actually be experienced.
Sorry about that.
All right. The first set of questions. Remember, take about 3 minutes for the first set of questions. Take 3 minutes for each question. And then pause at the end. Pause at the end of each 3. Pause the video after we read the question. Take 3 minutes, answer it, and then come back. In a day or two, come back to the questions again and flesh them out. Because the goal is not to judge your energy. The goal is to become more honest about what you bring into connection. So, question 1. What emotional state do I most often bring into connection without naming it? Urgency, anxiety, confidence, guardedness, need? Is it pressure? Is it resentment? Is it excitement? Is it control? What state might people be feeling from you before you explain yourself?
So as we've been going over this, one of the things that occurs to me is when I'm in work mode, I have a tendency to be very direct. And I have a tendency to send out texts or emails or phone calls where I don't even say, hello, how are you today? Or check in with the other person's energy or availability or anything. I just fire things off. Like there's an urgency and there's control involved with that because I need an answer to something. I want it right now. When I had a physical space where people worked for me in person, I used to be accused of having resting bitch face when I walked through the space when I was in work mode. And I didn't feel like I was in a bad mood. People thought I was angry, and I didn't feel angry. But I wasn't being responsible for how my energy was affecting everybody in the room, especially because I was the boss, right? Especially because, there's that power differential when you're in charge. And it's really important. It should have been really important to me to monitor how I was impacting the people around me by the energy that I was putting into the room. But I didn't, because I thought that, the fact that I was in work mode should have been excuse enough or reason enough to defend why I was putting out an energy that put people on edge.
Yeah. So what emotional state do I often bring into connecting? I think it's curiosity and excitement. More often than not. But what ends up happening is some people might feel like it's an attraction. So it's not always the same, like how I'm presenting isn't always the same on how they're receiving it. So like curiosity and excitement, ooh, welcome, blah, 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 like you're new here, yada, yada. It's almost like they feel my excitement is in a general, an interest into something deeper with them than my genuine curiosity or excitement for them being there. Sometimes. Ultimately, my intention behind it is to help a person feel like they're seen. So I think, what state might people be feeling from you before I explain myself? I would want to say curiosity and excitement. Maybe a level of confidence in the conversation too. What emotional state do I most often bring into connection without naming it? Yeah, because I try to create space for someone to just exist so that they don't have to project masks to me. So I would say a number of those. Yeah. Curiosity, confidence, excitement.
I think that's insightful, though, that you recognize that sometimes people confuse that. for a level of intensity or interest that isn't really there on your part.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it happens. It happens.
Oh, I know. Believe me, I know.
All right. Question 2. How do people tend to respond to my energy? Do they relax? Do they perform? Withdraw? Explain? Do they soften? Do they brace? Do they go quiet or do they chase? What patterns have you noticed in how people respond around you?
Well, when I'm in that work mode that we just talked about, people have a tendency to perform, they have a tendency to brace, they have a tendency to withdraw. You know, they don't, even if I don't say anything that's inherently challenging, my energy says challenging. My energy says rough and abrasive. And so tendency for people to just like withdraw, or that thing about like conforming rather than consent, like performing, just to not have to deal with what I feel like.
I think what I shared, how do people tend to respond to my energy? I think some of it is around, oh, he must be interested in me because I'm curious. I think people tend to open up. In the past, people would perform, I think, because of either my role or status in the space, because they wanted to get close to the organizer or some shit like that. But I think now what I do is, I think they feel seen, and I think they feel like they can open up because I'm curious about X, Y, and Z. I don't often get a wall or resistance. I get conversation. So I think people tend to respond to my energy by being more relaxed or softening up, not necessarily going quiet. Sometimes they do chase. Sometimes. What patterns have you noticed in how people respond to you around me? Yeah, sometimes it becomes a chase because sometimes I think they feel seen in a way that they haven't in the past. So it's like, it's a constant need for that.
Yeah. So question 3, where do I mistake intensity for presence? Where do you bring a lot of energy but not necessarily grounded attention? Where might your passion, excitement, or urgency be creating activation instead of connection?
Not in BDSM scenes at all. Not in play at all. Not in intimate spaces at all. No, that's where sometimes where my intensity isn't about presence, it's about consumption. And again, I'm going to bring it back to the difference between when I'm working with clients to when we're doing play versus when I've asked for something, right? It's like depending on the agreement and how we got there, depends on how someone can mistake intensity for presence. Yeah, because sometimes I bring a lot of energy into the play, but it's because I need to be fed. I need the excitement. I need the intensity. I need to feel strong. And it's not about feeling strong with, it's about feeling strong for myself. Sometimes as I'm saying it, sometimes it feels like it could be like a coping mechanism to fear of aging or fear of becoming less relevant. But it's in some of those scenarios, right? Like, where might my passion or excitement or urgency be creating activation instead of connection? Depending on what the scene, the agreement of the scene, or in the past, if it wasn't negotiated, if certain levels of intensity weren't negotiated, meaning I want to go to a degree of intensity that you didn't say no to, is different than what you said yes to, right? It makes me think of one person I used to play with years ago who would get really revved up and they would have a really hard come down. But I was so focused on the come up, I didn't consider the come down. And it wasn't even part of my thoughts until I realized the impact that it had. And I was like, wow, well, that's fucked up. Because our play would require 3 or 4 days of drop from them. And I wasn't available for that because I didn't have time for that. But if you want to play this deep, we can play this deep. But I'm not going to be there for your sub drop because that's too much for me. And ultimately, the play would create activation, and they would feel disconnected because I had no interest in grounding them, because they told me how I understood it was, I'll be able to take care of it myself. And it's like the mindful part of that, the responsible part of it was like, but you can't do it in a healthy way. You won't be grounded. You can't get yourself grounded in a healthy way. But that wasn't, in the negotiation, that wasn't my concern. But I knew better. And yet I did it anyway. Because my passion, my fucking excitement, that's what we were aiming for. We weren't aiming for the connection. We were aiming for the excitement of the scene.
That's fair. For me, it's about passion or excitement about sharing with you what my feedback, right? That's my, again, my unsolicited advice when someone brings something up and I feel like I have something meaningful or helpful to share. And my intention is purely to be helpful, but I rush into it without asking first if there's space for it, if there's a desire for it. And so it can create activation instead of bringing clarity, right? And my intention is to bring clarity and help and whatever. But if I rush headlong into it and don't take into account how it might land, then I'm just creating activation in some cases, and I'm not creating clarity at all.
What's wild is I'm reflecting back at other times in my life, right? It's like I'm trying to put pieces together, also so I can have examples of what not to do. So yeah, some of the stories you hear are from who I was 10 years ago. And I'm finally putting words to the behaviors because we're here, right? I've learned a lot of lessons from intensity instead of connection because of broken relationships. It's almost like the difference between consent versus informed consent. And in my earlier years starting this stuff, it was like the Wild West. Also, the community was the fucking Wild West. It was... Things evolved over time. And I evolved with them over time. I wouldn't say I was the safest person simply because of, I think, this question that we just answered. It's like sometimes I was choosing intensity over connection because I wanted to do wild shit. And I had to unlearn that because the relationships wouldn't evolve the way that they were the healthiest. The outcomes, I mean, I'm still friends with almost all of them today. So it's not like the friendships broke, but I think there was a lot of breaking and a lot of putting back together, a lot of, well, I won't be doing that shit again. And sometimes it had to be learned the hard way. It's not necessarily easy to learn it from a book, right? So it's like this conversation about intensity versus connection is a real thing. Because it's like, oh, this bottom, they love doing the wild shit. But what about the before, during, and after? Especially the after. And those are things that didn't come into my purview because I didn't have mentorship. I didn't have something like this to make me question what I was doing. So I just want to be upfront with that, is that all these conversations we're having, they're all lessons learned in one capacity or another.
Yeah.
Number 4, what does my body communicate before my words do? What does my face communicate? My breathing, my posture. What does my silence communicate? the pace that I go at, the eye contact I have or don't? What about my tone? What is my body saying before my mouth catches up? I think it's all dependent on who it is. I think the easiest way for me to say it is if I am in agreement and I do want to, I lean into, I feel expansive. If I don't want it, I contract and I withdraw. And it's like, that's what's happening in my body. I think that's the first communication my body says. I'm either going to feel pulled or I'm going to feel pushed intuitively.
Yeah. For me, I have no poker face. When I'm upset about something, when I don't like something, I was dealing with somebody recently, a contractor, who makes me totally uncomfortable, who I'm not comfortable with at all. And yet I felt like I had to pretend. I felt like I had to perform the part of someone who's okay with it. And the truth is if you were in the room and you knew me, you knew full well that I wasn't okay with it, right? I think because the person didn't really know me that well, they were able to go on the surface, but I would bet that they even could detect something underneath the surface because I just don't have a poker face. And just because I wasn't saying it didn't mean that it wasn't completely obvious what I was thinking and feeling. So, yeah, I'm really bad with that.
Yeah. So let's jump into this between round reflection.
All right. So before moving into the second round, pause, take a breath, and let the first set of questions settle in. In one sentence, what did you notice about yourself in that breakout? And with one word, what are you leaving that set of questions with?
And let that be enough. You don't have to turn it into a full explanation, as we've said before. Just notice what surfaced, because that's information, and that's going to help you flesh it out when you come back to the questions. Let's jump to the next set of questions, integrity and accountability.
So the second set is about integration, not just noticing your energy, but learning how to bring it more intentionally. And again, take 3 minutes per question, turn it off after we read it, and then answer it before you turn it back on and hear what we have to say. So question number 5, what would it look like to enter connection more intentionally? What would you need to check in with before engaging? Is it your body, your breath, your pace, your motive, or your capacity?
So this week I've been sitting with how am I stepping into relationships, and am I saying exactly what I mean and meaning what I say, and not allowing things to be guessed, no guesstimations on it. And because I've had to sit with relationships in my life, making sure that I said what we were getting into, that there was an understanding of the pros and the cons, that in some ways it's a painful experience because of power exchange in relationships and space and purpose and schedule. So I think when I step into connection, the first thing I'm gauging is capacity. What can I be present for, realistically? And being able to say that. There was another friend in which we spent a few days together. And before we met, the idea was, well, what space can I provide you? What role can I provide you in this connection? And I was able to be straight up with it. This is what I can do, and this is what I can't be here for. And it really alleviated a lot of the guesswork that goes into this. So that when we make the choice in saying, while our connection can be tight and it's real, the space that's going to come with it is okay too, because that's the understanding. And the other friend was like, yeah, I totally get it. Because the things that we do it's high level vulnerability, it's high level intensity, it's high level communication and trust. And it's like, well, what do we do with that energy? How do we respect the energy? How do we acknowledge it? And how do we not set up false hope?
Yeah, I think for me, it's about, can I be conscientious? Can I be thoughtful? Can I be curious? Can I be quiet? And check in with myself before I engage, before I bring my energy to someone or a situation. And a lot of times, because I've spent so much time in survival mode, I've spent so much time I'm just doing what I have to do, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I'm doing what's needed of me, with no regard to where I'm feeling and no regard to what I have spoons for. And so it's an important practice for me to look at what's my motive, what's my capacity, what am I really able to do, and what am I not able to do, and to be able to show up honestly and own that. It's not easy for me, but it's important because it shifts how I react and relate to people and the connections I'm able to make, the genuine connections I'm able to make. All right, question 6. Where do I need to name my state instead of making others interpret it? Where could you simply say, I'm anxious, I'm excited, I'm guarded, this is moving too fast, I need to take a moment, or I care about this and I want to slow down?
I think in any connection that I have where it's going to shift my time, my attention, where it's going to affect how I show up, if I'm going to show up differently, if the conversation or the relationship makes me feel a certain way, or investments make me feel a certain way. I think being able to say that when I'm feeling it. But where do I need to name my state instead of making others interpret? It's in every relationship.
One of the things I feel like I want to say here, it has to do with permission. For the longest time, I didn't know that I could say these things. I didn't know that I could show up and honestly admit to needing to slow down, needing a breath, needing a moment, needing to acknowledge that I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling activated or whatever. I always thought that I needed to sort of perform over those things, that I couldn't admit those things in my connections and in my interactions. It never occurred to me. I didn't feel like I had permission to be honest with someone that way, that it was okay to do that. And so I just say that for anyone else who's experienced that feeling of, well, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know it was okay to show up and be honest like that. And so for me, it's about practicing it, because for years I didn't do it and it didn't even occur to me that I could. And yet connections feel so much more genuine when I do. It takes the edge off of things. It creates peace for the other person if I can show up and acknowledge what's happening in my body. Because a lot of times it's what's happening in my body. It's the breath. We've talked about breath a couple times, and I haven't acknowledged that. Sometimes I'll do that sigh thing when I'm like, and I try to notice it more and let it inform how I'm feeling, and that there's something here for me to acknowledge about the way I'm feeling. And that's effort for me. That's takes a lot of conscious intention on my part to be able to do.
Question number 7. What energy do I want to practice bringing into my relationships this week? Do I want to practice bringing groundedness, honesty, patience? Patience for me. Warmth, direct, curious, spacious. What would be different if you practiced that on purpose?
Heck, I want to practice all that stuff. I would like to be grounded. I'd like to be able to be honest. I'd like to be able to be calm and present and listen. I like to be able to get out of the way of my own agenda. That's when I get into trouble, is when I come into interactions with an agenda and then with expectation. And I had a partner once that used to say, if you don't have any expectations, you can never be disappointed, right? And yet I still struggle with coming into things with expectations. So I seek out being able to be open and grounded and listen and be present without necessarily having to have an agenda.
I like the part of expected outcome, like moving past that. Because for myself, I think patience is my biggest lack. Because I perform. I'm a high performer. Like, shit's always moving for me, and I expect everyone to be on that same page, or I step into it expecting people to step up to that pace, and it's like that I need to do differently. So patience is one of them.
I get that. All right. Last question. What specific practice would help me regulate before I enter important conversations? Is it taking a breath, taking a pause, maybe journaling a little bit? Maybe it's some movement, moving your body. Could be prayer for some people, or grounding, or just asking for a moment. What would help you arrive before you engage?
I think for the big questions, for the big conversations, prayer and journaling help. And grounding, because it's like I want to make sure that I'm being present, ultimately to help me be present with the conversation, so that I'm not thinking about what I needed to write down, what I needed to say, what I don't want to forget, forgetting what I don't want to forget, right? So anything that can prepare me to be present in the conversation.
Yeah, I agree. If I have a big conversation I have to have, journaling is really a great tool for me. I do it in advance. Prayer, when I remember it, it's a fabulous tool, but I don't always remember to use it. But even taking a breath, taking a pause, taking a moment, reminding myself to just be grounded and listen and be curious and be willing to put my agenda and what I think and what I want to say on hold, or being able to hold it back away from that push that I have to want to say everything and help, right? Because a lot of times my pushing and my intensity is caught up in my sense of wanting to help, even when it's not helping.
Yeah. Thank you, Mama. So before we close, let's review the questions for this upcoming Conscious Conversation session. Month 8, Episode 2.
The energy you bring into the room.
So set 1, awareness and orientation. Question number 1. What emotional state do I most often bring into connection without naming it?
2, how do people tend to respond to my energy?
3, where do I mistake intensity for presence?
And 4, what does my body communicate before my words do?
In between these 2 rounds, I want you to reflect on these. With one sentence, what did you notice about yourself after that first set of questions? And with one word, what are you leaving that first set of questions with?
All right, so the second set is about integration and accountability. 5, what would it look like to enter connection more intentionally?
6, where do I need to name my state instead of making others interpret it?
7, what energy do I want to practice bringing into my relationships this week?
And 8, what specific practice would help me regulate before I enter an important conversation?
The energy you bring matters, not because you need to be perfect, not because you need to monitor every breath, but because your presence affects people.
And when you become more aware of that, you begin to have more choice. You can slow down. You can name what's happening. You can regulate before engaging. You can even stop making people interpret what you're unwilling to say.
And this is exactly what we practice inside Conscious Conversations every Tuesday night. It's a live guided space where you can reflect, you can speak, hear yourself, hear others, notice your patterns, and practice these questions in real time. That also helps you stay connected to the work long enough for it to actually change something.
Conscious Conversation meets every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. DM us or message us for a complimentary ticket if this is your first time. And but when it lands, because this work does incredible, incredible things, it's only $30 a month, and you get access to that live space weekly, a place to reflect, to practice, to build community, and to stay connected to the work.
And for those who want more support, the Integration Circle gives you all the Tuesday night conversations, a private WhatsApp group, community, and a monthly live session with us where you can ask questions, process what's coming up, and get support integrating what you're learning.
Our episodes come out every Wednesday on Spotify and YouTube, and you'll be able to stay more connected in conversations joining us on our Tuesday.
So understand this, your words matter,
But your energy speaks too,
sometimes before your explanation.
sometimes louder than your intention.
So instead of only asking, what did I say?
Try asking this: what did I bring energetically?
And what did people have to feel from me before I ever explained myself?
And that question can change the way you enter every room. And it will change the way you enter every room, because that's how we got here. Next week, we continue month 8 by looking at feedback, defensiveness, and repair. What happens when someone names your impact? Can you stay present? Can you listen? Can you repair without collapsing or defending?
Because becoming aware of your impact is one thing. Being able to hear it from someone else is another.
And that's where we're going to next.
New episodes drop every Wednesday.
Yes, they do. Spotify and YouTube.
Swallow. And the work continues inside Conscious Conversations every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We look forward to seeing you. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you there.